What's going on, everybody? This is James Grandmaster Faqs Boyce, and this is the Faqs Project. Today, I got two special guests today. Two special guests, okay? And this is special because for one, I've had the opportunity to talk to Brian Lambert before about this collaboration with Constant Hustle Comics, with Concept Moon and themselves, Nightfall. And today I have also the writer and editor of Wingless Comics himself, Malachi Bailey, who's also joining us on the show. So I appreciate the both of you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Word, man. This is goddamn dope, man. All right, so for anybody that does not know, I got a little snippet, a good 6-page snippet of Nightfall 2 just before we started the show. And for those of you that haven't had the opportunity to read Nightfall 1, all right, let's just say this. Generally, in the past, you have a lot of people who have put a lot of strong characters together, and note, oftentimes it turns out to be a little bit sloppy. This was not the case. For one, it was an extremely powerful told story. It had all the quirkiness that was needed to involve a lot of the viewers and keep them involved. But there was the ability to have that many strong characters within a book, and for it to be just like that dope meant something. And it's definitely meaningful for you guys to do this, because not a lot of people can do what you do as far as the collaboration between a few other companies with a lot of great characters and then put out awesome books.
Thank you. It's definitely been like a labor of love, right? But like, I'm gonna say emphasis on the labor part, because people don't think about that. Like, it's not like an easy lift for anybody. I'm not easy to deal with when I'm in my writing phase, which is why I have Malachi edit for me. I didn't need you to look away like that. I need you. I don't need you to co-sign that. No, but you know what I mean? Like, we get these creative streaks or whatever, right? And I think anybody who's done comics or doing comics, movies, entertainment, you know, you grew up as a kid seeing crossover, seeing these different things, you know, seeing these big productions. And so to get the chance to actually do that, one, is great. Mm-hmm. Then to have someone that you respect, like you, tell you did it well is an entirely different level of it, right? Like, and anybody can do one issue and, oh yeah, man, we just threw all these guys together. But one of the things that I really focused on when writing it was making sure that it was like cohesive. Yeah. You have a lot of worlds where you get info dumps. It's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, we're on the Grandmaster Faqs show, and James Boyce, he did such. And in 1982, like, you got to tell everything. So it's boring, as opposed to just like, nah, we're here, we're making jokes. Okay, we may have known each other before, we may not have known each other before, but like, you're in the real world. And I think that rings more true than, let's say, your 90s X-Men cartoon introduction of Gambit and the Externals, because you got to give a bunch of background. That's good for a cartoon. But when you're trying to do, I don't know, real impactful kind of groundbreaking, for lack of better words, comics, you can do that. I just don't find it as engaging.
Yeah, and now if either of you could basically like let the audience know how this collaboration came about.
Brian.
Okay, I was gonna give you one. Also, I noticed my background, so I'm gonna say real quick, thank you guys for bearing with me. I know there's some boxes and stuff in my background. I apologize. The Wingless Comics Studios, we're in the middle of a move. That's what I call my apartment, Wingless Comics Studios. But yeah, I'm about to move to a new place, so forgive my background here. I worked with formerly I worked with a pretty well-known indie comic company. Yeah. And when I broke off from that company, and they've gone on to some pretty good success themselves, but when I broke off, I had this idea, and just before I had this idea, I wanted to do a crossover. Literally, that was like my only idea. Like, man, I want to put 5 or 6 characters. I love the old Extinction Agenda, X-Men stuff. That like, Extinction Agenda is my one. That and Executioner Song. I love those two. Those kind of brought me into big world comics. Well, and that's before, you know, Marvel versus DC and everything else.
Yeah, E for Extinction was my thought. E for Extinction. That was like one of my first big events as a kid.
Oh, yeah, man. It was, you know what I mean? Like, they still do it now, but I think it was more of an event then. You know, you had to wait like every year or 2 years for an event to happen. Yeah. And so I wanted to do that. And I wanted to do that with indies. And I had seen some other people do it, but honestly, I always felt it always felt like tacked on to me. Like, it's like, oh, look at my friend's character. And the story never went anywhere. And even DC itself, right? I love DC. I'm a DC guy.
Mm.
The endings of their books, like their build up, dope. Their endings, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, Marvel on the other end for me, like their beginnings are kind of, but then their endings end up being super dope, like 9 times out of 10. So I wanted to do something that balanced both.
The reference that you just gave to DC just sounded like Doomsday Clock.
Bro, that's exactly what I was thinking of when I said it, right? Like, for real. Oh, he's the hope of everything. So he didn't punch me in the face, and now everything's great. What? What? I'm so mad. Like,
that's
okay. It's such a letdown. Again, I wanted to do this story. I had the basics in my mind. I wanted to work with certain people. Some of those people didn't work out, and that's just me. Just, hey man, you want to be in a crossover? Hey, you want to be in a crossover? And some yes, some no's. I ended up finding some really good partners, and they for the most part worked out. And I was able to craft, a really interesting story. I'm not going to say like on my own, oh yeah, it was great, right? But I had fun writing it. And when I read through the script myself, like it's like a good story that I like to read. And that's what I wanted to bring to the table. And so I was fortunate enough to get some really good characters. I was fortunate enough, even within when I started writing the crossover, that's when Malachi actually came on the Wingless, when I brought him on the Wingless with me. So like that's been a boon, things like that. And so it kind of just one thing tumbled into the next. Almost like the story itself. It just kind of happened organically, and the things that fall away, and the things that build on. It's organic, and I think that's the best way to, 1, tell a story, 2, grow an audience, 3, continue in this business.
Dope. Now, the last time that we talked, Brian, we made a reference to the relationship between basically you as a writer and your editor. You brought up Malachi a bunch of times. That was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to have him on the show. So thank you for being here, Malachi, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
For real. So as far as like developing these two stories, between Nightfall 1 and Nightfall 2, and basically just encompassing how strong these characters are, how easy, or let's say how many curves did you have to make in order to put this story together, and editing exactly what Brian put down on paper?
You know what? For me and Brian, we pretty much click. There are times when, I wish he had hair so I could pull it out. And and maybe it's a good thing we're on different, sides of the country. But, it's the word of the night's going to be seamless. It's a pretty seamless partnership. When he has story ideas and he brings it to my attention, they're good. It gets me excited. And if I have story ideas, I bring it to him, he likes it. And it's like, we just keep on building on it. So for me, it's fun. I enjoy, building this world with him.
Mm-hmm.
We call it the Wingverse. And
he named it that. He won't let it go. And I just had to give in at one point. I was like, okay, fine. It's the Wingverse. Fine.
The Wingverse. And and you could tell that, we have this synergy, this chemistry, because we have so many more stories, planned after, this one. We have like a 5-year plan that we're working on now.
That's just crossovers, but yeah, crossovers, 5 years worth of. I shouldn't even call them crossovers anymore. 5 years worth of big story ideas. Now that's separate from her ongoing series that Malachi's writing, Justice, the ongoing series that I'm writing, Lux, that's going to come out at the end of the year, Crimson Overdrive. You know what I mean? Like, we have 5 big universe tales that should be debuting each year, one a year, for the next 5 years.
Now, one thing that I wanted to basically bring up was the fact that, notably, the first book basically chose as a focal point of Avery the Astonishing, Justice, and Caliburn. In this one, you tend to get, are we looking to get a lot more focal point into the characters of Jinx, Lux, her?
So, yes and no, right? And I mean no from the standpoint of it doesn't go into like, it's not, oh, this issue is this person's, this issue is that person's, right. which you do see, right, in modern comics. Like, oh, if you have X the Swords, you had the Wolverine, not even the tie-in. It was all about Wolverine. I get it. It's his
point of views. They were view books.
Yeah. But I wrote Nightfall it's in 5 parts now, but I actually wrote it as one big story. So the script that Malachi has, the script that Fabio, our artist, has, the script that Nestor, our colorist, has, you know, on and on and on, is 100 and some odd page, you know, script. It's one thing. Mm-hmm. So even though it's chopped into pieces, you get point of view sections from people. Mm-hmm. So it's not really per issue, it's per section. Avery is majorly a driver in the series. If you just look at the series itself, events are happening to her and happening around her, and she's driving what we as the audience see. Yeah, Justice is there and he does some stuff, but he's not necessarily driving the story. Lux is driving the story. Avery is driving the story. And the reason I bring that up is kind of twofold. It's important. While we're talking about Black comics, while we're talking about diversity, while we're talking about inclusion, while we're talking about representation matters, I have to be cognizant that female representation matters. I honestly created the character of Lux for my little sister. My little sister, obviously, I shouldn't even call her my little sister because we're both grown, but I've called her that my entire life. So Jordan, I apologize if you got offended. You know I love you. When we were growing up, we used to play, NES, right? Nintendo video games. There was a Wrestling Superstars video game. It had one girl on there. This girl was whack. Like, she had no moves. It was a girl wrestler, right? And I never understood why she played as this girl wrestler. But like one day, and this is her as like a child, like her is like 6 years old. Like, I'm playing with her because she's the girl, right? She didn't say like, because she looks like me. She's the girl, so I'm gonna play with the girl. And I was like, okay. At 11, 12, I'm like, bro, play with Hulk Hogan. Like, dude is buff. Like, but I didn't understand it. But as I got to be an adult, and we start talking about representation, I look back and I say, Jordan loved Jubilee, but Jubilee didn't exist for her back then. Jubilee was only Jubilee, right? There was no Black Jubilee. There was no Riri Williams. There was no Moon Girl. Thank you. And Devil Dinosaur. She didn't have all of that. There was no Naomi, right? So if we're doing these things, if we're really talking about representation, if we're really talking about good storytelling, sometimes, even though Justice is my flagship character, Justice is Wingless Comics' flagship character, sometimes you got to step back and Justice can take a back seat. That's one of the problems, like we were talking about with like DC, right? Oh yeah, Superman gets to be the hero of Doomsday Clock because he's the guy, but it's lackluster. It would have been better if somebody else had been the hero and there was another reason for that. And he could be in there and he could still do Superman-y stuff. Okay, right. Cool. But he doesn't have to be the focal point. That's one of the problems when you get some of these big companies, even with Wolverine. Wolverine doesn't have to be the focal point of everything. Bro, just go in and cut somebody and deuces. Like, you don't have to do it all the time. Captain America, like, bro, you throw a shield. Really? You gonna beat Galactus? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I love him fighting with Thanos, right? I love him picking up the hammer. Great stuff. I love him getting beat down at the end too. He doesn't have to be the guy. Right. And they do that too much. So I'm all for empowering women. And I'm all for empowering the Black women that we represent with our comics. So you're going to see a lot of her. You're going to see a lot of Avery. You're going to see a lot of Lux. And it's never going to be at the expense of the story, just like you're going to see a lot of Caliburn and you're going to see a lot of Justice. And it's not going to be at the expense of the story.
Okay. Malachi. Now from episode 1 to episode 2. No, at the end of episode 1, we basically got like almost like the triple stare down between the 3 protagonists in this book. Mm-hmm. And paint the picture for everybody, because we're talking about like how the Kickstarter went live 3 days ago and you guys have already accomplished this goal. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for that being said, of course, the anticipation for this book is what it is. But to see that ending frame, that cliffhanger at the end of episode 1 and bringing us into episode 2, could you paint that picture for everybody?
So the picture that I want people to envision, when you think about Marvel in particular, which is my preferred, comic book company over DC, because make mine Marvel is better than DC.
We gonna do that now? You gonna do that right now?
Yes, we are.
We're being friendly right now. Don't you start.
I have the talking pen. So when you think about Marvel Comics, their big 3 is Captain America, you have Iron Man, and you have Thor. Those are like the cornerstones of the Avengers and pretty much the Marvel universe. So when you go to the last page of Nightfall Part 1, and you have these 3 bigger than life characters, and their eyes are glowing, with the Kirby crackle, and you see the veins throbbing in the forehead, and they're ready to tear each other up. we wanted to build up on that anticipation. Like, something cataclysmic is going to happen. You
Right.
know that blood will be spilled. There are going to be all these lumps and bruises. People will be thrown through buildings. All those wonderful things you expect in a huge fight in a comic book. So I want our viewers, I want our fans, I want the readers to drink in that sight, burn it into your memory. And then when you go to part 2, just keep that in mind.
Right.
Just keep it in mind, and make sure, you have a cold rag, to the side, some smelling salts on the side as well, and possibly a blanket.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna turn it back over to you. I know you're the question man, Faqs, but after getting that 6-page preview without spoilers.
Yeah, no, I'm not giving any
spoilers. What are your thoughts of number two dovetailing on the end of number 1?
All right, I'll say this. After reading the first 6 pages, and thank you, by the way, but after reading those first 6 pages, I'm sitting there and I think I read too fast because I read all the way up to page 6, and it brought me back to page 1 to the point where, okay, I remember the cliffhanger at the end of episode 1. So I'm looking at episode 2 and I'm waiting for this big oh shit moment. And in reading those 6 pages, I wish I had the book in my hand, because I read through and I was like, wait a minute, I had to go back. I was like, wait, hold. I'm like, oh, that's some bullshit. Hold on. So for the audience member, and this is just being me, it shocked me to the point where I had to go back and read it again to realize what I just saw with my own eyes really did happen.
Yeah. See, that's why we do it, right? Like, that's why.
Great writing.
Thank you again, right? Like, I think that's, like I said, I've seen in our industry, everybody can do this. And I've seen people do it, and I've seen people do it to great success. I've seen people do it to less success. And that's even with the bigs. But it's a great thing to like actually have the effect on people that you want. To actually like, okay, hey man, I'm gonna throw this in there. And it's not just a gimmick. Like, this is not just a gold foil cover so that you pay some extra money. This is like a writing thing to, hey, did you see this? Did you catch this? Did it have the impact? And I think that's more important. And I love that part. I enjoy it. And to the enjoyment factor, one of the reasons Malachi and my relationship works is because when Malachi disapproves of what I do, I know. We were talking the other day, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do such and such a character. I'm not gonna say it because I still plan on doing it, right? But I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna do this character. And he's like, I haven't heard you talk about this character before. So where's this coming from? And in my mind, I'm like, well, in my imagination, I just thought about it. And so he's like, well, did this inspire you? Did that inspire you? Like, nah, bro, this is like literally from my imagination. And I could tell that Malachi maybe had some plans with said character. And it's all in the subtext, right? It's a writer talking to another writer. Because he's like, oh yeah, well, I got this group of people I got to deal with too that kind of overlap with this character. And then we leave it there. But the same thing happens on Malachi's end. Malachi will be like, oh, I want to do this and maybe some time travel. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do time travel now. Okay, well, maybe I wanted to do time travel. And so that's what makes it great, right? Because we can even surprise each other, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but then we carry that over. We make sure we keep that energy when we write. If I forget to put something in, Mal will be like, yo, man, what about that? What you were talking about? And either I'm putting it in then, or I'm saving it for this crossover. I'm saving it for this book, and vice versa. And that's, again, I think that's, again, the strength of the relationship we have, which carries over to the work we put out for other people.
True. Now, Malachi, in the emphasis of basically building up the universe, so the Wingverse, as we're going to call it. Yes.
You win, Mal.
And with the emphasis on building up the Wingverse, as far as building up the protagonists that you want to lead these books, is it heavy on basically providing the audience the ability to find some of the side characters favorable to the point where they can carry on their own series?
When we So when we create characters, we don't put them in categories. It's like, this is so and so. She or he may have a connection to our flagship, character or whomever, but it's not like you're going to be on a ranked level. There's not a system. Um, Everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses, and when I wrote my book, Her, and I had the side character of Ramona, people flocked to her. They said, "Oh, she's a cute little spunky Asian girl with the pink hair, and she's driving a hearse, and she has the unicorn, fixation." It wasn't my intention for her to, take her spotlight. But was I happy that someone was, acknowledging this character? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because we still want our children, as I say it, we still want them to have that. I won't say like approval, but it's the attention. We have them in the story because they fit the need of the story. They're not there just to be props or to make the head character look good. This is a literary device that's going to help them push the story forward.
Mm-hmm.
So for me personally, when I have a character that's created, it's because I love the character. I want to see how they work on the page. Is it something that I want to keep in the future? Is it something that I'm going to still work with, or maybe it's just a dud and I can just get rid of it? But I don't play favorites. I put it that way.
Dope.
I also think
I'm lying. I'm lying.
I was like, he does play favorites, but that's cool.
I do, and I'm going to say it. And it's only I apply it to Brian's characters. Like, I love Caliburn.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that's like the big, like, I call it, well, in my own mind, like I'm gonna copyright it now. But it's like the Toriyama syndrome, right? Like, again, I invented Justice and I invented Caliburn, right? And I didn't really have I had plans for what was gonna happen, but people love Caliburn. That doesn't make them love Justice any less. But it's Goku and Vegeta, bro. Like, honestly, like, you got the diehard Caliburn fans that are just like, nah, he's that dude. Yeah, okay, yeah, Justice is cool and all, but this is that guy, And I think I think that talks a lot about your ability to write. You can create great characters when your secondary character is kind of in some ways better. Look at Seven Deadly Sins. I love Bond, bro. Bond is way better than Meliodas, but like, they're still both dope. Mm-hmm. And then there are other people who are like, nah, Meliodas is that guy. I think when you can create that secondary character and that foil that is just as good or better than your quote unquote main character, then you're doing some good storytelling at that point.
It's true. So you're saying the anime basically played a big part in your writing?
I think there's no way for me to say no. There is no way for me to say that. So I grew up on, I grew up on the older school stuff. Like, I grew up on Robotech. Like, Robotech, if anybody's out there listening and they got the rights to Harmony Gold, or y'all got to hook up, like, it's been my dream. Hey, I already got a plot lined up for a 4-movie Robotech series. It's going to be a for real space opera. Like, I got the music and everything, y'all. So if anybody knows somebody who knows somebody, I'll let your boy. I got it down. I know what I'm doing.
Okay, so then I ask you this, because I'm also of that age caliber: Robotech or Gundam?
Ooh, so I gotta go Robotech. Well, excuse me, I say this: I gotta go Robotech as a young man, because I grew up with Robotech.
Right. I'm
starting to get in some more of the Gundam stuff because I wasn't overly exposed. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, damn, Gundam. Man, it had some deep plots. It had the political. I even got into, I don't know if you bro, Star Blazers, Battleship Yamato. Oh, bro, I can watch that once a week, every week.
The one thing
don't get me started.
The one thing I can say about Gundam's fights, as differed from Robotech, is that Gundam fights often happen to the background music of jazz fusion. Nobody can get the ass whooped to jazz fusion.
Right, right, yeah. So I think
cool ass saxophone playing in the background, and you get
right, dodging missiles. I think that Gundam, obviously, it's gotten its props lately, and like I said, growing up, I didn't really, I wasn't really aware as much. But one of the problems with Robotech is because it's Robotech, and we're not talking about Macross. You get reused cells and reused scenes, and you didn't get all the great battles. Because like Macross, Do You Remember Love? Like, bruh, it's just as amazing as anything else. But I think the way they would develop those stories, and even if you're talking about like One Piece, and One Piece is 7 trillion episodes long, and it's still engaging.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that all creators could learn from not only anime, right? But when I was growing up, I watched One Life to Live. I watched General Hospital.
Oh, you know
all the soaps, bro.
You was at Grandma's house, weren't you?
Bro, yeah, right. Right, you already know. And then some Benny Hinn too, because she was Christian, so we had to watch had to get a religion on too. But then you have these long-lasting stories, right? Even in old school WWF, and I say F before it was E, right? You had 10-year-long stories. I always talk about, and my brother's like, man, could you just write it yourself? Because WCW, when they did the break off in the NWO and they had all that going and they were winning the Monday Night Wars, there was a period where you had NWO White and NWO Red. And they were like, who's the leader of NWO Red? It's crazy. Yeah. They're taking over. Miss Elizabeth was rolling with them the whole time. And I had, in my mind, I had developed this plot. I was like, Miss Elizabeth is actually the leader of everything and she's been controlling everything because she was with NWO White when it first started. Then she was with Red and she was always with the most powerful faction. And I was like, that'll be so dope. And then they made it Eric Bischoff and it pissed me off. And I was like, I hate everything.
My goodness.
But the drama and the pageantry there and being able to elongate a story for years and weeks on end, like if you can't take the kernels of great out of that stuff, then I don't think Stephen King isn't the only person you can study to get a good story. You can study WWF, you can study soap operas, you can study anime, you can see how we get a lot of comics now that are like, there's no slow burn. They come out and they tell you, oh, this guy is the greatest guy in the world and he's bulletproof and he's fast, and he got powers, and he got mental powers too, and he can stop meteors. Like him. And it's like, bro, why would you like it? And that's whack. Like once you get to it, like the art is cute, but like, okay, he could do all of that. He's Superman strong and he beating up bank robbers. Yeah. Why he stopping inner city gangs, bro? Stop it. What? That ain't fair.
As much as I love Stephen King, I feel like he overutilizes the magical Negro trope too much.
Yeah.
He did that in Green Mile, and like The Shining. And he used Scatman Crothers.
All of them.
Like literally a man that's happening. Like I'm like,
Stand too, right? So Whoopi Goldberg in The Stand.
Right? Yeah, in The Stand, all of them. Yeah.
He uses the magical Negro trope like over and over again, and it's like, and nobody calls him out on his bullshit, but he does it often.
I like old Stephen King. I like Salem's Lot and Needful Things. I like new Stephen King. I'm straight. Old Stephen King, I love. He's like old Frank Miller to me. Like I like old Frank Miller. New Frank Miller, somebody else can have him.
Yeah. To be honest, horror is what got me into comics. That's always been like the biggest thing for me. Now Malachi, like where did your writing sense come from? Where were these inspirations happening?
It's pretty similar to Brian's because my mom was an avid General Hospital fan. And I remember my siblings and I coming home from school at 3:00 and we're watching not Luke and Laura because that was before our time, but when Sonny Corinthos was brand new and you had
Justice for Jason.
You had the Quartermains and AJ drinking, and then you had One Life to Live with what's her name, Sydney Penny. She was playing Julia with Noah, and because she had the black guy with the dreadlocks. So as a child, you're drawn into this world because it's so interesting and it's so dramatic. And I remember when I was a kid, my brother and I. And my sister to some degree, but mainly was just me and my brother Malcolm. We created this world. We called it Gloveland Glove, and it was this community of people who lived together. There were some mutants, there were some humans. We had Wolverine. He was in love. Actually, we were the first ones to give Wolverine a real name. There was no Dave Howlett shit. No, but he was Logan Blythe back in 1995. He married the comic strip Brenda Starr. They had children.
Brenda Starr?
Yes, because she was one of my favorites growing up.
Right.
And so it was like I had all that energy, all that imagination. And I can tell you, my brother and I, we did that for years. And it was to the point where I had a notebook, like a composition notebook, and I would write down what would happen each day. And when I got to be like 12 or 13, of course you don't want to play with toys anymore. It was okay, well, I want to continue, developing my craft. So then I started doing like these little novels, and I would have my mom read it. So she would stop whatever she was doing, like she'd be on the phone with somebody. If I rushed in the room with, with a bunch of papers in my hand, she would hang up on the person, or she would, turn on the TV and I would read a chapter to her. And one title that I'm going to use, I'm going to find a way to use it. I did a story called Cracked Utopia. And I was like 13, 14, I want to say. And she was such a major influence in my writing. Like, she said, Malachi, when you have your first book signing, I want to be the first one in line to get my my autographs. And I didn't believe it then. I was like, no, that's not going to happen, whatever. 20 years later, I did have that happen. So, her encouragement, me reading comic books galore, I started in 1993-ish, but it was the Onslaught saga that drew me in. Because I was 12, so we're going back summer of 96.
Yeah.
I know I look real
Speaking
young.
of lackluster endings.
Actually, no. No, because I did like how they wrapped it up. Like, for me, it was.
Or you drank my drink when I said it. So
listen, I
drank my drink when I said it.
And what I loved about the ending of the Onslaught saga is that the X-Men were pretty much beaten. They were wearing like the tattered costumes, and Onslaught he's kicking their ass, and then you see the smoke clear, and you see like the shield, and then you see Captain America come through, and Thor is helping Storm up, and you have the Hulk, he's holding Rogue and Wolverine in his hands. And then they had a caption that says Age of Marvels. So as a 12-year-old, I'm like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And so, and throughout that final issue, there's a part where you see Johnny, he picks up Crystal. So that brings you back to when they used to date. And then you had Quicksilver, he called Vision his brother. And how he hated Vision in the beginning because he wasn't real. And then, at the very end, when Sue was about to hold her son for the last time, he said no, and he warped reality. So for me, that was some top-notch shit. Like, don't you drink that drink? For me.
Look, no. So the storytelling leading up to the end, I'll give you that, right? I loved it too.
I said what I said.
I'm talking about those, stop it, those last, 6 pages where Thor jumps into, and it's literally a rip in the comic page. And he jumps in. I say, it's dope, right? I say the nay. I love Thor when he gets a line like that, right? I say the nay. Great. But they literally jumped into a riff. And then the next 2-page layout is all the X-Men just shooting their powers at a riff at nothing. Come on, bro. It was weak. The buildup I thought was amazing. The buildup was so great. And I agree with you on every piece of that, like the Vision thing, all of that stuff. Even the issue before where you have Captain America talking to Joseph, you know what I mean? On the rooftop. Like, I loved all of that. Like, I agree with you 100%. It was all great.
Brian,
the ending, those last 4 to 6 pages, I was like,
but Brian, don't forget the part where I think it was Uncanny X-Men 336, 337, when the Invisible Woman, she slapped Cyclops in the face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it had a bunch of good moments there. I forget what issue it was, but when you finally see Bishop's ultimate origin, right? Where he takes in all the energy. And you had seen that since Bishop's original appearance. And I was like, oh, that was dope. Onslaught threw Juggernaut across the world.
Yes,
I was like, across the entire world? He tattooed his name on Jean's forehead. I loved it all. Like, I loved all the build-up stuff. I love the build-up. But it felt to me like we feel about Doomsday Clock now. Like, at the very, very end, it just petered out. Like, I know they wanted to get him over to the Pocket Universe to do the reboot, to do the restart. I'm with it. I just feel like it kind of petered out. Like, it could have looked so much more dynamic, because even when you destroy Onslaught, like, he ended up looking like a crab dude. He was dope when he was that armored Magneto and everybody could tell who he was. He's like, I ain't Magneto. Okay, bro. Sure, you're not Magneto with the helmet on.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, when that ended, it was kind of like, that was it for Onslaught. It was,
but then he came back, which made it so annoying. It's like,
Yeah, that's what it was like. It was like the end. It's kind of like with Doomsday Clock. It was like, okay, the fight's over. Where does this lead? To nothing.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't even pick it up. And it was like, oh, they're going to go through this door and some other stuff is going to happen. And we're still sitting here like, but where's the other stuff though?
Yeah.
Like, what?
I
loved what was it? X-Men Alpha and X-Men Omega. Now that was a good ending to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have Bishop come back.
Yeah.
David Haller stabs him with the thing, sees everything he did wrong, and then he dissipates himself. Mm-hmm. Xavier's back. Now you got all these other things happening as the Age of Apocalypse world gets bombed by, you know, nukes. I was like, oh man, okay, you're trying to pull the heartstrings.
People fail to realize how many pivotal books Bishop has been the focal point in.
Bruh.
And don't forget how they played him in the Messiah Complex.
Yes.
I was so mad.
Yeah.
I was so mad.
Days of Futures Past. It's not Wolverine that goes back.
Right? Like, excuse me. I was so mad. I was so mad about the Messiah Complex.
Yeah, not the movies. Right? Cinematically, I know Marvel like to be predictable and everything like that. And at that point, they wanted Wolverine to be the focal point and all this stuff. But that's beyond.
That annoyed the hell out of me too. Like, where was Rachel?
Yeah.
Right. It makes so it actually makes no sense to have Wolverine as the focal point of anything because he's not supposed to be that type of character. Never. He is the guy that jumps in and jumps out. When they did, like you said, when they did that David Howlett stuff, that was the worst thing they ever did to Wolverine. They should have kept him either no origin or really connected him to Sabretooth like it was supposed to be, where Sabretooth was supposed to be his father. And you're like, oh snap, that's what. Oh, did you ever read the original stuff? Did you read the original?
I did.
I love that when Sabretooth would come around for his birthday and beat him down every time. Oh, it's your birthday.
What's his name?
Pops. You know what I'm saying? Like, boop, 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 boop. And they just wouldn't say it. I thought that was so dope, bro. And then they just didn't develop it because, now they needed to be brothers, kind of, maybe, but not. What?
Remember his brother Dog from the origin story and fixation with redheads? And I'm like, what am I reading?
Right? And then they made that canon. They were like, this is the one we're gonna go with. But why though? But why?
That's why
all the stuff with Weapon X became nothing, and Weapon X was so dope, and they've made Weapon X trash.
They said it wasn't Weapon X anymore, it was Weapon 10.
I will never do that. I will never ever do that. I will never. It's always gonna be X for me. Make mine X.
Yeah, that's why. To be honest, there's an entire conversation that retconning is just a problem in comics.
Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, no longer the kids of Magneto.
Look, it turned into the fact where Magneto went from being their father to being their mentor, which was weird.
And then nothing at all.
Yeah. Like what? That makes zero sense.
There's certain people.
But Polaris is his kid.
Yeah, there's certain people that argue the fact we're like, do not talk about Scarlet Witch in X-Men theories. She is an Avenger. And I get that. That's fine.
But she was an X-Men villain first. They forget that.
She was a villain. She was part of the Brotherhood.
They forget that.
Right? Like, come on, dude. Yeah. It's
we're such I love it.
So the last big thing I wanted to touch on was the fact that you two as much as a lot of other indie companies, you both collaborate, but you do not live very close to each other. How are you able to maintain a working relationship with the ability to put out great work while being that far apart?
Agatha Harkness.
Honestly, I think like Malachi said, I think that's actually one of our strengths, right? Because there would have been times where we would have like, hey man, meet me in the park. We're gonna go have lunch. And as soon as he gets there, stone cold stunner. Like it's a wrap, you know what I mean? And vice versa, you know what I mean? Like I think it's actually good. I think our work hours are what they are. So I actually get up pretty early, which is like regular time for him. So we can communicate kind of throughout the day. And everything isn't about work.
True.
A lot of it is, 85%, is work related, if not work itself. But, we'll talk about memes that, either one of us put up or our DC versus Marvel kind of thing. And both of us having knowledge of both companies or, whatever it is. I think working relationships work when you want them to. A lot of independent creators, have artists overseas. I definitely do. Fabio's from Brazil. Nestor's from the Philippines. Gladson is from Brazil. Jalilson is from Brazil. On and on and on. And I think when you learn how to communicate and you learn your communication style, then you can communicate with almost anyone. And if you want something to work, even when there are problems, you look for ways to make it work. I've had partners in the past where there were problems and they didn't look for solutions. They looked for problems. They looked for more problems. As the problem is happening, let's look for more problems. Let's be more angry, as opposed to let's find a solution. Again, Malachi and I have worked together long enough to where if Malachi says something and I just go, okay, he knows he's not going to bring it up again because either it made me mad, I didn't like it, or whatever it is, right? If it's just like, oh, okay, either that means, hey, do what you want to do because it's your property, or I don't want to talk about it. And vice versa. I can tell by Malachi's responses, okay, cool, either I'm going to do this alone and I'm going to do it because I want to do it, or I'm going to approach this a different way. Communication, people often forget that communication is two ways. It's not, oh, I communicated because I told him something. That's not communication. Communication is making sure that they understand and grasp where you're coming from and you grasp where they're coming from. And Malachi and I work, pretty diligently, and we talk. I think, since we even before we partnered up, in terms of writing and stuff, we were talking I don't think we've gone 2 days, 3 days, maybe tops, without talking to each other. Just about whatever it is. And that's including like, okay, man, hey, I need a few days, a break from Facebook. I need a vacation. Me and Malachi will still communicate. Like I said, he'll get maybe a 2-day rest. I'll get maybe a 2-day rest. And if we're not talking on the third day, something's wrong. Like he may be sick or I must be sick. But we just keep that constant stream of communication. And it really is, it's easier when you actually legitimately have someone's best interest in mind. Like, hey, Malachi may edit my things or I may edit his and he may not like what I edit, but at the end of the day, he knows I'm trying to get the best story. And it don't matter. It's not about pride. It's not about him. It's not about me. It's about getting the best product. So Wingless puts out the best product on both ends. And I think that that's the major benefit and one of the major strengths of our working relationship.
And don't forget, it's something that should also be brought up. Brian and I were friends first. We already had we relationship that we were cultivating or whatever that was still being built. So we already had. It was easier for us, I guess. It wasn't just always business. We discussed our lives outside of Wingless. We know each other's families, and we discuss about what's going on in the world. So it's nice to have a blend of this is regular life and this is the life that we want to build. Right.
Man, that's great. Yo, for one, I'm glad to have both of you on. I felt like it was only right to get both of your perspectives as far as the company's concerned. And I feel like y'all's relationship pushes the fact that you get great comics time and time again. Please, if you would, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you if they wanted to learn more about Wingless Comics. How's the best, how and what is the best way to reach you? Malachi first.
Scarlet Witch gets to take this one.
Oh,
I thought you were the Scarlet Witch.
I'm Agatha.
I thought I was Agatha. So
look, I've been drinking. I'm Agatha.
Okay. So you can reach us. We're actually on IG, Wingless Comics, and we have a website. It's Wingless ENT. So like this, for entertainment. So winglessint.com. And we're on Facebook. We have the Wingless fan page. We have actually 2 fan pages, but we're phasing out the older one because Facebook is annoying as hell. But we have 2 fan pages. And of course, we have our respective IG handles. I'm Mal _ writer, but you already knew that because we follow each other. And Brian is like, what's it? Brian _
Wycoff Lambert.
Yes.
But that's private, so don't look for me there because I'm not gonna know who you guys are. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. So
but mine is public because
Mal is a public person. No, so also don't forget we actually are live on Kickstarter right now. We just launched the Nightfall part 2, A Cold Wind Blows campaign. It launched on Friday. We are already funded, but we definitely still need your help to reach a higher goals. We got some stretch goals coming up. So we will have at, what are we at now? So at 3,500, we will be giving a series of 4 ebooks away that I'm going to announce tomorrow. We have another creator that we're working with that is going to give a stretch goal to all of our backers at 3,500. At 5,500, I've got a surprise for you guys, but it's going to be a print by a very well-renowned artist, a very talented artist. You might have seen his work on Battle Chasers, and that's all I'm going to give you. So if people know about Battle Chasers, they'll know who I'm talking about.
Right.
Like I said, he's a very, very awesome artist, very, very well respected in the industry, and his work is great. You're gonna get to see the Wingless characters in a different style, which is gonna be really, really fun. So we got some stretch goals out there for you guys that we want to give to everybody that we want to make, and we want to make sure that we go into issue 3 with a lot of momentum, because we got 3 more issues, guys. And honestly, even with what James has said here in terms of his jaw dropping and not being, getting that oh shit moment, you got 3 more issues. Yeah. And I just told you how much I like endings, guys. So think about it. We're building up to something really great. So, again, keep this momentum going, and be sure to check us out on Kickstarter. You can look us up, Wingless Comics, on Kickstarter, also on Nightfall, and we'll come right up.
Dope. So for one, thank you guys for both of you guys coming on, and do your due diligence and get out there and just please get their Kickstarter. I know they've already accomplished their goal, but basically for those indie comic book creators that are out there that are basically trying to hit their mark as far as their stretch goals are concerned, it's only a benefit to the people that are being the consumers. And these guys are just doing an excellent job, top to bottom. They have excellent lineup of characters. And I hope that everybody just basically puts it out there that they can see just a good storyline with great writers and awesome characters time and time again. So from myself to Malachi and Brian at Wingless Comics, I appreciate everybody. Faqs Project, we are out.